Hey everyone, Mike here, and in this video we're pitching the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini against the Sony Xperia SP, two of the best mid-range Android smartphones of the moment. Let's see which one is the better pick and why. The Galaxy is definitely the more compact and lighter handset here. That makes it more comfortable to grab and use every day, especially if you're like me and rather have a smaller, more practical phone than a bigger one with a larger screen. On the other hand, the Xperia SP is the sturdier and the better built of the two. Plastic is used for almost the entire case on the S4 Mini, glossy and highly sensible to scratches and smudges. Sony however chose aluminum for the edges of the Xperia and some matte rugged plastic for the back. As a result, the SP feels a lot more solid than the Mini, but the metal frame does add to the overall weight of the phone. The rear plates are removable on the two devices, hiding the SIM and microSD card slots beneath. And having a quick look around the sides, you'll notice that the two feature pretty much the same buttons and ports, with few exceptions. There's an IR blaster on the Galaxy and the dedicated camera button on the Xperia. And there is one more design aspect we should mention before moving forward. Sony went for a transparent piece of plastic just below the screen that acts as a notification and ambient light LED and does add a unique touch to this phone. The S4 Mini on the other hand completely lacks a notification light altogether. Okay, let's turn our attention on the screens. There's a 4.3-inch display on the Samsung with QHD resolution and a 4.6-inch one on the Sony with HD resolution. That translates in higher pixel density for the latter, but in everyday use you won't really feel that. However, completely different panels are used for the two screens, each with their pros and cons. On one side there's the AMOLED panel on the S4 Mini, with its popping yet unrealistic looking colors, deep blacks, great contrast and viewing angles, but quite low brightness levels. On the other, there's the TFT panel on the Xperia SP. Paired with Sony's mobile Bravia engine, it displays good looking content as long as you're watching it straight on. The colors are not as vibrant as on the S4, but look more natural. Besides that, it's worth mentioning that the viewing angles are quite poor and you can use the screen with gloves on, as it embeds a highly sensitive panel, something not available on the Mini. Those aside, let's power on these two handsets. Both are running Android, but there's a newer version of the OS on the Galaxy that does add some extra features. Besides that, both Samsung and Sony skin the operating system in their own ways. Sony's approach is lighter and closer to a stock Android experience, while bundling a bunch of their own apps and several tweaks like small apps or the on-screen navigation buttons. Samsung TouchWiz changes a few more things and not necessarily in a good way. And the S4 Mini bundles of course gestures, a bunch of S-branded apps and so on. The two phones are however snappy in everyday use and can handle all sorts of stuff, from the basics like phone calls, texting or browsing, to games and movies. Both are powered by some dual-core processors and offer a fair amount of RAM. Although the Xperia only comes with 1GB of memory, it does offer the faster graphics solution and in benchmarks it tends to outscore the Galaxy in most cases, but only by a minor margin. It's also worth mentioning that these two only offer 8GB of internal storage, out of which about 5 or so can be used for apps and games. They can take microSD cards and you can move parts of the installed apps on those cards as well, but if you're planning on having many games on these phones, you'll quickly run out of storage space anyway, and that's something you have to be aware of. That aside, let's speak about the cameras for a bit. Both handsets feature front-facing shooters capable of taking 720p recordings on the S4 Mini and only VGA clips on the Xperia SP. On the back, you'll find the main cameras, both with 8MP sensors and flash. The S4 Mini does offer a complex interface mostly borrowed from the larger Galaxy S4, with plenty of shooting modes and filters. The overall images are alright as long as you shoot in good light, but quickly turn grainy in dimmer conditions. The Xperia offers mostly the same features, but with a different interface. Sony's Smart Auto mode chooses between a bunch of preset scenes the one that best fits any given situation. And the results are decent as well, but not impressive, as the images tend to get somewhat washed out and overprocessed, and that despite Sony bundling their Exmor RS sensor on this handset. But have a look at the images and let me know which one do you think is better. I for one have a hard time deciding between the two. When it comes to videos, both can shoot 1080p 30 frames per second recordings with plenty of details and fair quality audio, so nothing to complain about here. And then there's the battery life. The S4 Mini bundles a 1900 mAh replaceable battery. The Xperia SP houses a larger but non-removable 2370 mAh battery. As a result, Sony's smartphone does tend to outlast its rival in most activities. But with average use, both can easily go through the day with enough to spare when you go to bed at night, and that's fine by me. It's worth mentioning as well that both these phones support LTE speeds, and this will drain the batteries faster, if you have 4G coverage in your area, of course. And by the way, there will be a dual SIM version of the S4 Mini as well, if you're interested in something like that. In the end, both the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini and the Sony Xperia SP are great second-tier handsets, hot on the heels of their premium siblings, the Galaxy S4 and the Xperia Z. Choosing one over the other is entirely up to you and what you need in your phone. The S4 Mini is the smaller and lighter of the two, packs an AMOLED screen and all the Samsung TouchWiz particularities and ecosystem. The Xperia SP is a more massive and sturdier device, sports a decent but not great screen and will last for a while on a charge. Besides that, it's worth mentioning that the Sony is about 20% cheaper than the Galaxy S4 Mini these days. Of course, the Mini is brand new and it will get more affordable in the next weeks and months, but I'm pretty sure the Xperia is always going to remain the more accessible option. And if you're on a tight budget, that will matter a lot. With that in mind, it's time to wrap this up. However, before you go, I'd like you to leave a comment below and let me know which one of these two is in your opinion the better pick and what's the main thing that steers you towards one or the other. My money would go towards the S4 Mini because it's more compact and more practical, although there are plenty of things I like about the SP as well. But you might have other priorities, so post your replies below. Alright, and that's about it for now. Thanks for watching, and if you found this useful, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and share it around. I'll catch you in the next clip.